All right, guys, we now welcome on a very special guest. Huntingtown native, played his high school there for St. Mary's Ryken, then went on to play for the Loyola Greyhounds, eventually ending up with the Denver Outlaws, where he won an MLL championship, and now a current midfielder, or midi, as they call it in the sport, for PLL's Atlas. Good buddy of ours growing up, Romar Dennis. Man, what is going on? How are you doing?
What's up, boys? Thanks for having me. I love just hearing Huntingtown, but it's good to talk to you guys again.
Yeah, man, good to see you. Good to hear from you. It's been a while. First thing, we want to start with this. We see the shirt hanging up there on Kyle's wall. Myself and Camel bought one ourselves. So first bone to pick with you is like, what's with the quality? I know we're a new league, but we can't get a little better quality out of these shirts.
I mean, I just gotta play better. I gotta get a real official jersey. I'm stuck at the player T level, so that's on me.
So the better you play, the jersey like then becomes like the Nike material and that type of shit.
Yeah, Adidas like dry fit, like exactly our game quality. So like I might not, or I just don't have enough clout for that yet. Maybe I just gotta get my posts up.
I don't know. Me and Camel's biggest issue was watching you. It's like I feel like you didn't get enough play time. We're like, all right, a couple times you guys were down a couple goals, and I feel like you're the 2-point specialist out there. Just get out there and just let it fucking fly. But it's like, all right, why is he not in yet? And we're just, obviously we have biased. We're biased, but
yeah. I mean, there's a short list of guys who think they get enough playing time in this league because it's such dense competition and level of play. It's 7 teams, and they're all stacked. There's All-Americans across the board. So
yeah,
the difference this year is that I expected that. So I was like, I'm going to make a little bit more of the opportunities, where last year I was like, all right, I'm going to get a bunch of runs, and I didn't. Here I knew that was going to be the case. So I was a little more opportunistic, I think.
So let's kind of start with this, and then we'll kind of get in your career from like a chronological standpoint. So how's the offseason going? I believe you're out in California right now, you said. So how's the offseason going? What are you working on? What are you doing right now?
Yeah, so as opposed to last year, I had this long off season of like a lot of like lifting weights and bulking up, and then when the pandemic hit and quarantine, we weren't advised not to go to gyms, especially leading up to the PLL bubble. So I had to make do with home workouts and barely any weight. So I think I lost a ton of weight, and so right now my goal is to just get that strength and power back. So I'm back in the gym trying to kind of like, as soon as I got back, I was just trying to build my base back up.
Just beefing up. So is this your first off season out in California, or do you kind of hop around each off season, try to find something different to do?
Yeah, this is my first one. I guess the off season leading up to it, I was just like, when I first moved out here, I was staying with my buddy Kyle Foote. I was staying on his couch, so I was just like bouncing around looking for jobs, tried out for an NLL team. We had that PLL Japan trip, and there's like Thanksgiving, Christmas. So I was just like trying to figure out where I was going to live in California, or like where it made sense for the job I was going to have. So this is like, all right, I'm here. I know where I live. Time to like focus on the game a little bit.
Can buy bed sheets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What do you got,
We're talking about training real quick. I wanted to ask, do you do any special training for a 2-bomb shot?
No, honestly, like even I barely shot leading up to this one. I just played a ton of wall ball. But I just play like really hard wall ball. And I guess my only difference is I do a lot of like wrist strength, probably similar to what dudes do for like a slap shot. But I was like, I think the key to a hard shot is just that hard wrist snap.
And there's a couple training exercises you can do to get that wrist strength up, but we won't go into that. So yeah, it's kind of why we wanted to have you on. I mean, yeah, you're a good buddy of ours, grew up with us, had a good time with you growing up and everything, but also a lot of kids from around here that play hockey, play lacrosse in the off season. I mean, I know like pretty much the entire Landon hockey team is the entire lacrosse team there, and same with a lot of these prep schools and stuff around here. So let's just start at the beginning there, man. I mean, like we said, grew up in Huntingtown with us, and then it's off to Ryken. I mean, you obviously were good from a young age. We saw that firsthand. So talk about the process of going to Ryken, playing prep school lacrosse and all that.
Yeah, I mean, so I went to Plum Point with all the good guys, and with my brother, and my parents obviously wanted us to both go to the same high school, but I got recruited to Ryken, and he could have come as well, but he was just like, I got to go to Huntingtown with my boys. So he stayed, and I'm glad he did, because then I got to have the relationship with guys like you guys while I went away an hour to Ryken. But playing there, it was cool because it felt like college a little bit, that I was like kind of going away from home, even though it was only an hour, and just kind of made me really focus on lacrosse there. And the WCAC is like, I think it's only gotten better, but it was just a pretty big step up from competition, I think, from what SMAC were to have, because SMAC has like good players sprinkled in and out, and WCAC just kind of has like Gonzaga, and then you got like the DeMathas, the Gonzaga Kid Councils. So it was that was a good place to kind of like weigh myself and see where I was as a high schooler playing against guys like that. And back then, like private schools played Division I rules and public schools did not. So like recruiting, it made more sense to recruit players who played that quick whistle and no horns and stuff. And I think now it's like universal, everyone plays it, but like back then it was like only private schools play those D1 rules.
Right. So from like around that age, that high school age, you really, I could tell you started to notice that you had to make sacrifices to be a better player. You had to train and focus, and you were a big YouTube guy. I know you would watch a lot of videos and you were self-taught. Do you still do that to this day?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's all those classic ones like the Paul Rabel 2007, the Kyle Harrison 2005. I think I still watch, like they'll pop up once a week, but I used to watch them like a couple times a day, every day. And it was kind of like if I watched a video like that, or even if it'd be like best of college lacrosse 2010, I'd watch that and go outside and just do it in my backyard. And I mean, I felt like I might as well have had a coach there telling me what to do. Like you just go see it and you go try and do it.
Kind of hypes you up to get out there and do it yourself.
Yeah. I mean, and then like to get really like hyped up in the moment before games, I'm like YouTubing like NFL highlights, NBA highlights, and I still do that now. Like I just like the energy in some plays in other sports, I just feel like gets me right for.
So you'll just go watch like a highlight tape to get psyched up and ready to go.
Yeah, like it'll literally be like hardest hits NFL, like 2015. And I'll watch that. And I'll be like, I'm ready to go.
But the coolest part about that is like you said, you're watching all those Paul Rabel videos, and we're from Maryland. It's kind of the lacrosse hotbed, and now you're on his team.
Yeah.
Well, he's technically, I guess, your league manager and your teammate, but.
Yeah, no, that's what's crazy, and it goes further than that. Like obviously I emulated him. I had his poster, talked to him a lot, and kind of got a relationship with him as this league unfolded. But then when I moved out here, I started working for Creative Artists Agency, CAA, and then like 2 weeks into it, I get a company-wide email. It's like, please welcome new client, Paul Rabel, like lacrosse, and it's this. And I was like, yo, no. I was like, no way, dude.
Can I be the intern on that case?
Yeah, I was like, this is so full circle. It's insane. I was like, we're teammates, technically colleagues. And then, yeah, I was like, weird now. Like, I text him all the time. And we're friends now. And I never get too far away from it to think about that too. I was texting Kyle Harrison today as well, and I'm like, this is still really cool that I'm friends with you guys now.
Yeah. Well, Kyle Harrison used to be the background on the computer back in the day.
Yeah, dude.
I idolize that guy.
The goat.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, played at Ryken, KP. I think you've got the awards written down. I mean, I myself coached at Ryken. I don't think I've ever mentioned on this podcast before how I've won WCAC Coach of the Year, WCAC Champions, and definitely haven't mentioned that before on here. But, yeah, go ahead and rattle some of that off, KP.
I know.
Yeah, ice hockey, baby.
What?
Yeah, we're some ballers. We won our first WCAC championship, first MAPHL championship, WCAC Coach of the Year. I mean, it's not a big deal or anything, but
Dude,
I definitely haven't brought it up before. But
it's wild, dude. That's huge.
Well, here's the craziest thing too. You talk about full circle. The guy, my MVP that season, he won MAPHL Player of the Year. He was like by far the best player on the hockey team. The kid Pete Behrens, and he was like pretty much the lacrosse team captain. Was like his lacrosse was his main sport. It wasn't even hockey. He was a stud.
That's crazy, man. That is full circle.
Yes. Well, I know in 2013, Romar, yourself, you had the Player of the Year for the WCAC. And
I did.
In 2012, you were an Under Armour All-American.
Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about full circle, I think Paul Rabel himself won the WC Player of the Year in 05. No, 04? Yeah, 2004. So it's like
because he was he the Matha or where was he?
Yeah, DeMatha.
Yeah.
So it's I was honored. That was like kind of and back then I was not that I've won a ton of stuff, but it was always like kind of surprising because like you just kind of have that little league mentality where you just like go do what you're supposed to, go do what you're supposed to do, and then like you get older and they start recognizing you for stuff like that, and you're just like, oh damn, like that's a cool thing to hang my hat on. But I definitely appreciated that more after being in high school. Because at the time I was like, whatever.
Now, how much would you say us hanging out with you at the pool shack next to the pool on weekends contributed to your success?
Oh, it was huge, man. I mean,
Come over to Berto's house and be like, hey, Romar, get up here and maybe have a beer. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, dude, I hung out with you guys so much, especially my brother. And then Kyle got a stick and we started messing around. Like,
Yeah,
dude,
you even got me into lacrosse. I ended up playing my senior year of lacrosse. Me and Romar would be in the backyard just shooting around or whatever. Because
Yeah.
you were always on it. You were always training, always had a stick in hand. And I mean,
Yeah.
you could probably add some of that to your success now in the later days. Always keeping a stick in hand, playing wall ball, shooting on a net, like always at it in some way.
Yeah, man. I mean, as you get older, you appreciate that more, especially as I've only lived in more city, like urban areas, just to have that yard there and be going out there and not even like a serious like route, like workout written down, but just to go out there and toss a couple is like.
Right, you got the woods behind you in case you miss the net. You don't got to worry about much. You can just go out there and let it rip for a bit.
Yep. Now it's like a whole big ordeal. I got to go to a park. Got to get there early enough there not to be a lot of people. Got to bring my own net. Got to write down a workout to make the most out of like an hour or 2 hours.
Right. So after that, it's off to Loyola. So I'm sure there was a couple schools that were interested in you, trying to sign you, this, that, and the other. What were some of the schools? What were the schools that you were kind of deciding between, and then what ultimately made you decide to choose Loyola?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think Huntingtown is definitely like a small town vibe, and then Ryken pretty small as well. So I don't know if going to Ohio State or like UNC would be right for me. I think I'd get lost in that like 40,000 little city. So I was like, I don't know. And my parents were the ones to point that out. My dad would be like, I don't know, man. Like, so I was thinking of that, and then I started thinking I really want my parents to come to every game. So I was like, if I go to Denver or Albany, like they're definitely not making that trip every single time. So I was like, there's so many good schools in Maryland. Navy, which is kind of a way bigger, different decision, but you got Towson, Hopkins, Georgetown, UMBC, Mount St. Mary's is there, just Division I right in that area. And then even Virginia, you got UVA. I think BMI is there.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so like all these schools are like kind of right there. And I was like, I could definitely look at these first because like nothing would be easier than in Maryland. And then it came down to money, honestly. Like some school, I think Hofstra offered me a half scholarship. I went to visit there. I really liked it, liked the coach. I liked everything they had going on there. And I got like mild interest from like the Dukes, the UNC, Syracuse, Maryland. They were kind of like we could use you. There'd definitely be space. Whereas the Rutgers, Lehigh, Loyola's, Towson's, those are the schools that are like, you could come play right now. Like you'd be ready to go as a freshman.
Come be the future of our program type deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So so I was like, all right, if you want me that bad, then like you'd obviously throw more money. So Loyola offered me a full athletic, and it was only an hour and a half away. It was in Baltimore, and they were ranked 21 in the country, and I was like, it's a top 25 school. Like this, I could definitely compete for a spot. So I commit, and then I go to a scrimmage. They scrimmage Maryland, and they were bragging about, not bragging, but like they were holding their hat on the fact that they tied Notre Dame the year before. They're like, dude, we're up and coming. Like we tied Notre Dame that fall. Then that spring they win the national championship, and they only lost one game. So I was like,
wow.
I committed, and they just kind of finally climbed over that hump they were working for. So I'm like, damn, now I'm promised to come in here and help and play, but this is now a perennial powerhouse. Like they just won it all. So now I'm coming in, and the program evolved right at the same time as I did. So it was like the stars really aligned there, man. I got really lucky. It was an awesome place.
Yeah, KP, I'm surprised he was able to get that many offers after getting in a little bit of trouble in high school with a little plagiarism, I think it was.
Yeah, he did have an incident in high school, got in a little trouble with some plagiarism, but I think I ended up hearing on a podcast with Paul Rabel that the coach of Loyola never found out about that.
I mean, I think there are much worse things than
cheating on a fucking
that can
paper.
Happen, right?
Then get Turnitin.com flag in my papers,
right?
But, yeah, that's just a misuse of quotation marks is what I'd like to call that.
Yeah, it's
right?
Simple enough. It's like,
So,
footnotes.
Real quick, at this point in your career, like, pro lacrosse isn't a huge thing. It's not a model that it is at this point. So when you got to Loyola, were you like, oh, this is it? Like, this is the highest of my lacrosse potential?
So
Or was
me
it
being,
kind of not in your mind?
yeah, me being a lax rat, I watched a ton of pro lacrosse even before it was a big deal. Like I had no idea what they were making, but I assumed they were kind of doing that full time. If I saw someone on a magazine for Maverick or something, I'd be like, this dude's making like probably millions of dollars off this. Like this is like I thought of it like every other sport. I had no idea that this dude was like a financial planner in Bethesda. I was just like,
Right?
dude,
He's a pro athlete, and so is Kobe. So it's got to be the same thing, right?
right? And I don't see the difference. And so I was thinking like that, and so I was like, this is cool. And like anytime they'd get like on a magazine or a player would post with like a real, not a real, another pro player in a bigger league, I'd be like, dude, it's there. But I definitely am short-sighted. So when I got to Loyola, I was like, this is it. This is like the show. And the Final Four is like the biggest bowl game you can get to. So I was just like,
which, to be fair, I mean, in a way, it kind of was at that time because you remember the Final Four in lacrosse every year is either like in Annapolis or Philly, and they would just sell out that stadium for that entire weekend. I mean, we drive up all the time, but then we still weren't really like – you wouldn't really like watch the MLL, which I think was the only league at the time that was pro.
The coverage was just bad, man. It'll be like a 3-hour broadcast. The announcers are like talking about some deli that's near Hopkins' campus, and they're like, "Oh, who scored? His jersey doesn't have his name on it yet because he's a new guy." But and you're just like, it's hard to stay engaged, MLL wise. But for us, especially that Final Four, that game we get there. We get to stay in like a really nice hotel in Philly. We have like a police escort on our bus. We're like all in suits to Lincoln Financial, and then there's 35,000 people. And I was like, dude, this is it. Like it's not gonna get bigger than this. ESPN. That was cool. That's definitely what we all dream about, playing in a Final Four. Probably winning the whole thing is the bigger dream there, but definitely grateful to even make it to a Final Four at all.
Yeah, I want to go back to something you said a couple minutes ago is you wanted to go somewhere where your parents could come see the games. I mean, talk about your dad and mom real quick. I mean, they've always been a huge impact. They're two great people. I mean, Roberto Sr. was a high-level athlete himself. I mean, talk about the impact those two have had on you.
Yeah. So, as you guys know, he was drafted by the Yankees from Panama by the same scout who found Mariano Rivera was the guy who found him. Mm-hmm. And so he came over here. He was a center fielder, really fast, really strong arm. Played AAA up in Oneida, New York. And so he was hammering down baseball on me to like fourth grade. And then I got bored. I wasn't too into it. I played for, I don't know what the Prince Frederick team was called back then. I think we all just got like the same t-shirt in different colors, and I was purple. So we had a Colorado Rockies hat is all I remember. And so I played baseball up until fourth grade. But his background in sports, like the training, he treated it the same way. Like he was like, you need to be running steps, you need to be doing like box jumps and all this crazy stuff as like a middle schooler. So his athletic background, his drive was definitely what put me there. And then the fact that him and my mom were so blunt, like they were not that they were assholes, but I mean, I kind of were for sports. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like, Dad, I really want these cleats. Like these.
They're blunt. I remember your mom would come downstairs and bitch at Berto in Spanish. We'd all be like, "Ooh, he's in trouble."
He'd be like, "Yeah, I really want these cleats. They're so cool." My dad would be like, I mean, are these gonna make you good? Because you're not good. I don't see why getting these cleats would make you good. Or I'd be super happy we just beat the Dunkirk Warriors, and my mom would be like, I mean, you didn't score. You didn't really help your team at all. And then when they were just being completely honest, I was like, damn, all right.
Like, Dad, look good, play good.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, I don't like that, so I'm gonna have to change that. I'm gonna have to start balling. But I was like, man, I don't. They're very telling it how it is.
Yeah, for sure. And to kind of go along the lines of that, not really family, but another guy that had a huge impact on your career and did so for a lot of guys that came from our area. I mean, Ryan Johnson, Ryan Billman, my brother. I mean, Lenny Castellino. Talk about him a little bit.
Lenny was. I mean, he's. I've always called him my unofficial grandpa. But everything through lacrosse that's happened for me is all kudos to him. His grandson was my best friend at Calverton, Zach Windsor. So they're a huge lacrosse family. So I just started playing along with them. So we started with like scoopers and pre-K in the gym, scooping up a tennis ball. Got convinced to come try out for the Calvert North Blue Devils. And Lenny he was another one. He was just super intense and super competitive in a time when youth league coaches started to be like, all right, guys, like, it's all about having fun here. Like, let's all be friends. He was like, if you're not going to win, like, just don't come to practice. He'd be like, I don't want bad players here. I want good players. Winning is fun. Like, you guys want to have fun, win. So he was on it, and then his competitiveness kind of just rubbed off on me there. And he was always talking about college lacrosse, like showing us, like, Steele Stanwyck. He'd come in, he'd show us like a magazine cover and be like, see how he's protecting his stick in this cover? Like, this is what you guys need to do. And we're like third graders. We're like, yeah, I got it. And he was just so intense. And I think that's probably how a lot of Long Island, New York guys are, but that's just down there. He was like, I'm not letting off the gas pedal just because you guys are little kids. Like, this is how we play to win here. And a lot of kids quit. A lot of people didn't like it. I've heard he's softened up in these days, but that personally, that took me to the next level. For sure.
I think a lot of guys can say that, Ryan, especially. Yeah, I remember I think I played 1 year of lacrosse, and it wasn't until like 8th grade, and I was on the team with like Brian Frank, Johnston, Griff, and all those guys. And I came in, and he was like, "What do you do?" I was like, "I play hockey." He's like, "What do you do in there?" I was like, "I hit people." He's like, "All right, if you ever get a chance to get on the field, as long as you don't suck, just hit the shit out of some people." And I was like, "Sure thing, man. You got it. I'll do what I can."
Dude, yeah, he used to, and I got taller than him like 7th grade, so he used to grab my face mask and pull me down to yell at me. If I remember that, dude, he would scream. He would grab my stick, throw it. And afterwards, he'd be super nice. I was always at his house hanging out with Zach. I remember he had these little TVs in the back of his car. We'd always be playing PS2 on the way to tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
And but like, dude, he was more than a coach to me for sure. I owe him everything that lacrosse has given me.
Sure. So kind of finishing up with your lacrosse stuff here. I mean, your college career here. I mean, what were some of the best memories you had there at Loyola in terms of maybe it was been like, getting Patriot League academic all honors or going far in the tournament, or what was some of your best memories there?
Yeah, if I was talking to a classroom right now, I'd be like, yeah, Patriot League academic.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that was huge because I don't think I was a good high school student. But, dude, just like the fall, I love preseason on campus. You get there in September, and it's just like there's energy in the air. And as a freshman, I just got slaughtered by the workouts and class and stuff. I had a tough go. But once like you got your routine, like I loved being with the boys doing 2 hours of practice, hour of film before that, hour and a half lift after that, and then just living with them. Like, we did everything together, and you're never going to be close to that many people ever again. Like, that's like the best sports environment I think I've ever been in. So just the locker room, fall ball was one of my favorites.
What about those Loyola lacrosse fans? Heard they're the best in the whole college lacrosse.
Huh? Dog pound? I mean, dude, that's why I came there. There's no football team, so like the whole school was so adamant about our games, especially Hopkins or Towson. So the stadium would get packed, and there used to be bars like right on campus, and those used to be going after those games on Saturdays. And your parents would stick around, like parents would come to like the bar with you, and that was like one of my favorite things. It's just
that sounds like a good time.
Having my mom and dad at Zen West.
Yeah, I guess you think about it that way. I mean, you go to Loyola and the lacrosse team is pretty much you're the big man on campus. Whereas like if you would have gone to like Maryland or Duke, UNC, it's like, they're going to go watch football or basketball or maybe even a couple other things before they even think about like going to lacrosse games or something.
Right. Yeah. It's something like everyone does, especially when they're younger. Some kids as seniors want to say that they're too cool to come to the lacrosse games, but then you got so many local alumni that come to you. It's like it's a really fun thing. And the school's so small, like it's not like there are fans; they're just all your friends who aren't on the team. It's just like your boys there and everyone in class, and it's a cool sports environment.
So, kind of tying KP's question back in from earlier, it's like where you thought that college lacrosse would kind of be at the end of it, not knowing much of what the end of or professional lacrosse would hold. I mean, what was it like finishing college? Was there a decision of like, hey, the MLL has interest in me, I'm definitely going here, or maybe thinking of work, and then kind of take us through the experience of deciding to go to the MLL route, getting drafted and everything?
Yeah. I mean, so especially now in today's age, kids there, they have their degrees, they have their internships. Like they know they go straight into their job, and Loyola is one of the places that sets you up to do that as well. But I didn't do any internships. Like I worked with my mom at kind of doing like janitor stuff for their cleaning company all summers. running some camps here and there. And then, so I had no plan. I was like, dude, senior year, we're going to go super far. And I was just going to ride that momentum into a cool job interview, right? Like if you win a championship, you're just flying high, your energy's there. People are going to love it.
Flex your ring in the interview and she'll be like, yeah.
Like, right. That's not how it works. And,
what are your biggest skills? This ring.
Yeah. We lose first round at Ohio State. And it was just like a punch in the face. It was like, which made the loss so much heavier. I was just like, dude, what do I do now? Like my life's over. I got 2 more weeks in this house. I'm definitely going to stay there in the Lax house. And then, so it was like, we lost at Ohio State. We had like a private plane to the game, which is really cool, but it was just too depressing to enjoy because we were just like, all right, we're done here. Your lacrosse year's over. So we rode that back to Baltimore. And I was like, whatever, man, I'm just done with lacrosse now. I don't even think about anything. So I just was hanging out. Went to Ocean City with my brother for a while, and I was actually there. I was like at Secrets or on the way there when I get a call from Tony Seaman, the GM of the Denver Outlaws. And he's like, hey, how would you like to play in Major League Lacrosse? And I was like, what? I was like, oh, dude, that'd be awesome. I'd love that. And he's like, all right. Well, and I got like another call from their head coach who does a great job kind of finding people. And so then I go back to my brother's place in Salisbury and we throw the draft on and we wait. I think like 45 people get called. 4th round comes around and they're like, the Denver Outlaws select me from Loyola. And it was like player comparison, Paul Rabel, for shooting and dodging capabilities.
Okay.
I was like, that's cool. I love Paul. And that was it. I was like, well, damn, now it's go time. And that was in late May. So actually that was probably like Memorial Day weekend. So that's probably why I was down there. We lost in the first round. And then, so I was like, dang, I guess. And then back then, Major League Lacrosse started like before May. So they were like in their season already. I get drafted.
Huh.
But even after that, there was like 2 weekends went by. So I started training, didn't get the call for one game, didn't get the call the next one. I get one. They're like, yo, come to Denver. So I'm ready to go. I fly out there and practice. And like, yeah, we like to have our rookies come out and practice, but like, you're not going to play this weekend. And I was like, ooh, what is that? What is that about? So it was cool though, because we were in Mile High Stadium.
Yeah, that's what does your home field. That's awesome.
Yeah, Broncos players were there. And I was like, dude, I'm just like kind of chomping at the bit there. And then I get caught up for my first game. We play the New York Lizards. So Pinnell and Rabel are on the team. And I have like a lefty on the run bomb. And that just kind of solidified my spot there. That I was like, all right, I'm here. I'm on. I'm going to be playing every game now.
Prove yourself a little bit. I want to back up a little, though. So there was no interest in, like, as soon as you were done, I guess because of NCAA restrictions in the MLL, they kind of don't reach out. There's no kind of interest until, like, the day you're drafted? Or was that something out of the normal for you?
No. So they do their homework, especially Denver, compared to anyone else. So they had like their war room of like looking at players who would fit, who would be a good match. So they knew who they're going with. And there had been like talks through the grapevine. I remember one of my friends at Loyola is like related to the GM, and he was like, "Hey man, my uncle's like interested in you," which is like some super behind the scenes kind of stuff, but like very casual. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I would love to play. That'd be cool. And it was like a couple more things like that had happened, but no, like legit, hey, email, look out for this in 1 month, we're going to draft you. And then I was honestly figuring out, I was like, what am I going to do with my life after I graduated? That I wasn't thinking about Major League Lacrosse.
I'd imagine too, going back when you got that call on your way to Secrets, Memorial Day weekend, for those of you that aren't really familiar, I'd imagine you get that call and he says, hey, it's the Outlaws GM. You probably have to put it on mute, get a water, take a deep breath. You're like, all right, collect myself real quick here. And then go from there.
No. I was settled down. I was good to talk. I was just maybe my surroundings were not adequate, but yeah. I was in a good headspace to be talking.
Well, it eventually worked out. So, I mean, you guys, what was it, 2017? You guys won the championship there. Yeah. Or was it 18? So
that was when we were the runner-ups. So,
gotcha. So, I mean, talk about that, your time in Denver there. I mean, like you said, playing in Mile High Stadium, you eventually do win a championship one year there. And then you also get to go on like to a Broncos game at halftime and get like recognized and all that stuff, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. So 2017 was cool. I started playing a little bit, figuring out how I felt as a pro. The game was at Dallas Cowboys, the Star, that like big practice facility. It's like a massive state championship football caliber stadium. And that's where we lost, so that stung a bit. And then the next year we were just coming in there, pretty much the entire core squad. I was playing a little better, and we were stacked. And we go all the way down. Championship game was in Charleston, South Carolina, and we won that. We had like a huge rented house on the beach after. You want to talk about comp? We had the celebration ready to go. And the president of Broncos business, Mac Freeman, was down there with us, just like hyping us up, having a great time, picking up the tabs. And so he was, which is crazy because it's like that's late August, like that's mini camp, that's 2-a-days for the Broncos, but he like loved Lax so much. He was just there all weekend having a good time, and it was awesome, man. Like we were all such close friends, and we still are. Like we still have our 2018 champs group chat that gets going every once. And
any championship team is like that, I feel like. Yeah,
it really is, dude. So then like that was happening. I think October we got to come out for a Broncos game, and it was like a whole weekend. It was like a suit and tie apparel kind of, and we get to Broncos Stadium like in a limo, and it's like decked out. Like they have the locker room's got like the same thing, but it's like special nameplates that are regular ones that have championships next to them. There's like this huge like buffet in the locker room, and the locker room's huge. And I was like, all right, this is cool. And from there, we took a huge elevator upstairs to like the players family room, which is like a massive suite, like right above the end zone, which is huge. And then there were tables, and then that was like a catered, really nice dinner with the trophy there. And it was all like orange and black lighting, like Outlaws decorating everywhere, and it was so cool. And they're like, all right. Like we had this huge dinner, a lot of toasts, like everyone's feeling it. Go back down to the field, and then on the field there's those little tall tables with the rings on them, like literally like what they would do for an NFL team. And there's just like the NFL music playing on the Jumbotron. We're all like trying on our rings, like taking pictures. And I remember this specifically because you're supposed to get your championship rings a size bigger. And I remember Chris Cluche had his, like those on, a perfect fit. I'm like, mine's a little tight. He's like, oh, you've never had one of these? Because he rocked us in the Final Four with like 9 balls. And I was like, dude, I'm done. Put it on my pinky. And then so after that, we go inside. There's another like really nice Broncos room that's just got tables, full bar, and then the full championship game's on. And we're watching it, and the whole staff's there, all the trainers, the equipment people, the coaches, the GM, front office people, and it was like from there to there to there, and then from there we had like a rented bar. But I remember because it was snowing in Denver, and it was an awesome weekend, man. It was so cool. And after that was Sunday, where we had the football game, and that was a huge tailgate that we went to, and then we got to come in through like the back entrance and got to be on the sideline for the game.
That's sick.
Yeah, sideline for the game, and we had a suite up top next to like the owner's one. So it was like,
there you go. So yeah, it was probably a hell of a weekend there.
Dude, they treated us just like pro athletes, which is cool. Because I literally like left work in Baltimore on Friday and came to this, and I'm like, dude. I'm like, where? I was like, this is where lacrosse needs to be at. But the F wasn't there. Just the Outlaws were there. Like the Outlaws were at this high level, a
step ahead of the rest of the league, and you can't really have that if you want to grow a league where it's just like you got some teams struggling and falling behind.
Yeah, other teams have like a tent with no locker rooms, and you'll play there. They're like, hey guys, just keep your game shorts on. You can shower at the hotel after. And then Outlaws, we have that. So I was like, dude, this doesn't make sense. But Outlaws is first class, man. That was really fun weekend.
We got KP.
I mean that was sick, but I mean I really want to dive into the next adventure and
let's do
career.
It. So the PLL, man. So this is something that is a brand new kind of idea. It's Paul Rabel, and so how does that? Because I mean we've heard interviews with him. I mean he's been on Pardon My Take and everything a couple of times. And what I've heard from him is like, yeah, we just kind of came in and we took the best players and we said we want to start this new league. And what was your kind of first initial thought on it, the traveling tournament style, brand new league? I mean, did you have any doubt in leaving the MLL and trying this new thing out? Or
I think you should back up and kind of tell the story a little bit. Didn't you get a text and then an email or something like that?
Yeah, I'm in Baltimore, in Canton, and I get a text from Kyle Harrison. He's like, "What's a good email for you?" And I sent him my email. They get an email from Paul Rabel, and I'm like, "Cool." I'm like, "What's that?" Because we had, like, him and I hadn't really talked before then, and then it was like Paul Rabel, Kyle Harrison, and Mike Rabel. It's like, "Hey, we have a great season this year, Romar. Congrats on the championship. We have a business venture we think you'd be interested in, but before we go further, you're gonna have to sign an NDA." Like, tell my dad, I'm like, "Dude, like, what is this?" Like, I heard whispers like he might be starting a league or something, but I was like, I had no idea, because I know he does a ton of business stuff I had no idea about. So I was like, sure, sign it. He comes back and like, "Yo, we're starting a new league. The same concept as the UFC, some of the same investors. Like, we have to blow this up. It's gonna be, everyone gets equity in the league, so you have part ownership, and they're taking like his branding model and just giving that to everyone. His platform, his, like, the way he's had success, the non-endemic partners." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like, I make like $350 a game in the MLL. Like, it's like, it's got to be better than that. And they're like, "Oh yeah, pay is going to go up 500%, I think, on average." And I was like, "Say less.
Sign me up."
Sign me up. And so that holds. And they're like, he also was like, "You're on the first wave of players." So I think I got like a lot of equity compared to some of the other players, just because I got in there early. And on top of that, I was like, this would be really cool. I was like, my two players whose YouTube videos I used to grow up watching are starting this thing. Like, everything they do is clean. Like, they do it right. I've never seen them and been like, "It looks kind of raggedy. It doesn't look legit." Like, whether it's a camp, a sponsorship, they're launching equipment, everything they did was just top notch. So I was like, I trust these two dudes. And so after that, I just, like, whispers along the league come around, like, everyone signed it. The MLL is kind of hearing about it. They're like, "Oh, like, it's BS. Like, you know how Paul is. He's just gonna tell you whatever to sell you on it, but it's not even gonna launch. It's not gonna be a real thing. Like, it's gonna be like the XFL. It's a waste. Like, we've been here for 20 years." And I'm like, "Yeah, the MLL has been here for 20 years, but they haven't even adjusted for inflation. Like, the rookie salary in 1999 was $6,000, and in 2018 it was $6,000. I was like, so it's
not how that works.
I was like, if it went up by at least 2% a year, it'd be at $10,000. I was like, you're literally paying 2% less each year. I was like, what? You can't. Everyone else who's been around for 20 years is going to have some sort of improvement in something, in like the broadcast rights, in the player pay, and like maybe a union, maybe health benefits, like nothing." So I was like, really, they're kind of getting free labor here. Like, the owners get to barely pay the players anything, and kids are going to show up because that's the only option. And after that season ended, that was the year we won it. So looking back to that, when we were in Charleston, everyone's talking about, like, "What are you going to do next year?" Whatever. And some guys like, "Dude, I'm staying. Like, this is awesome. These are my boys. Denver's treated us well." And I'm like, "They have, but we don't know what else is out there. Like, we don't even know. Like, we've never played on like national television at the pro level. Like, we don't know what this pay could be like or what that might entail." So I was like, "Dude, I think I'm going to do it." And like, right there, you see it's kind of start to split up. And so like, after that, the league's just unfolding like quietly on social media. Like, you see the handle get made with no post, and people are like, "Oh, what is this? What is this like little secret page?" And it's like on and on. And but knowing Kyle Harrison, so he would just like drop me some stuff that wasn't like widely known. So he'd be like,
Right.
"Oh, dude, the big Drew Brees just invested," like stuff like that. And I'm like, "Dude, this is so legit already. Like, people are getting in on this." And on the outside world, people are like, "Oh, what? They have an Instagram page now? Like, it's legit." And then I mean, the ML really had no idea what they were being hit with.
Mm-hmm.
Then boom, here are the salaries, here's the model, and it actually helped the MLL players, because then the MLL had to raise their salaries.
Or else they're going to lose everyone.
Yeah, even they didn't come close, really, but
which is why they've lost everyone.
Yeah, but it went up. So like, the players who stayed were like, they should even be grateful for the PLL, because it's like, now there was some competition, and they had to get better to even compete. And
right.
So then on, like, it unfolded, and that just being behind the scenes and seeing how sports business works, and then like rounding up the investors, getting the broadcast deals, getting partnerships with things like Gatorade, Adidas, how those unfolded, just was like, dude, that's my stuff. I love sports. Like, I need to work in sports. So that persuaded me to leave kind of like my financial analyst job in Baltimore. And I was like, dude, where's all this sports media cool stuff happening in LA? So I talked to Paul and Mike Rabel a lot, and Kyle Harrison as well. And they had a pretty big network, and they kind of leaned on them for that. And that kind of just led me here. I was like, dude, I think I need to be in LA if I want to do more cool sports stuff. So I just kind of that, like, literally the PLL already was just changing my life around. Like, I'm doing a different career path. Like, I'm moving out of Maryland for once. Like, I was just like,
well, you don't have to worry about, like you said, you're making $350 a game, and as soon as the season's over, you're like, shit, dude, I gotta like go back to my like desk job for however many months.
Right.
Seriously. So I was just like, dude, this is
not how I envisioned being a pro athlete. Like, holy shit, dude.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah. And it's crazy because you think of like all the biggest legends, and like that's what they made too. Like their sponsorship deals were huge and like a lot more than that and livable. So like that counted it. But like their legit salary from their MLL team was like in that ballpark range.
Yeah.
So crazy.
You mentioned Drew Brees being an investor. Who are some of the coolest like big name guys you've got to met through the PLL and stuff like that?
I haven't. I'm not too involved there, but I haven't met too many of them. But a lot of the cool names are just people who are in high-ranking things other than sports. Like if you saw their board, it was the CEO of Google Ventures. So they they had a huge stake in Google, like Uber, Yelp, like those Facebook, those startups that are like the marquee, like blue chip startups. Then the head of sports for Creative Artists Agency, Mike Levine, he obviously does work with like all those big name CAA clients like D Wade, Aaron Rodgers. LeBron was there for most of his career before Clutch. And then on top of that, like they have like WAFA, soccer's broadcasting rights. CAA Hockey is like the biggest hockey agency. They have all those guys. So it's like his sports background. I'm like, this guy's in here. Like that's a pretty big deal. And then on top of that, we have Erica Nadini from Barstool is also on the board.
Yeah.
Manager of Madison Square Garden, or CEO of Madison Square Garden, was there. The ex-CEO of Yes Network, the Yankees sports. It was all this legit sports stuff. And I was like, dude, that just raised what lacrosse is about, because who was holding the MLL accountable? Like no one. No one knew what was going on. Some people kind of hit. I'm like, if these big time people are here, then it's got to be. And they're all investors as well. And it's like that just raised the stakes so much.
Kind of helps you out with your career too. Makes you excited for that next step. And you get thrown on that Chrome team. How did that plan out? Did you have any input of which kind of team or who you wanted to play with or anything?
No. So the teams were formed based on college teammates, pro teammates, and then like age. So we didn't have like a ton of rookies, no older guys. Try to make the balance. So every team was like kind of like an exact MLL team moved over. Like the Ohio Machine, Archers, Bayhawks were kind of like chaos a little bit, because you had like Miles Deemer, Mark Lasini, some of those, Josh Byrne. So that was there. What was it? The Rattlers was the Chrome. It was that entire team of like, they either went to Duke or they played for the Rattlers. That was that whole team there. And then my only connection there was Wes Berg, who I played with in Denver, and he got traded like 3 games in. So like I had no real like connection there. Those are the ones I made with like Connor Farrell, who's a good friend, and Chris Sabia, and Simon Matthias, Max Tuttle, the other young guys on the squad. We got close, but no, I had zero input there.
All your old teammates came over year 2, right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
That kind of sucked.
I was like, if we all came over at the same time, we'd have our own team and we could do that whole thing again. But they're like, kind of skeptical, and they came over late. I was like, all right, cool. But a good part of that's why you don't burn bridges. Like you don't play like a scumbag and like are super hostile to everyone at the bar after the game, and because you never know, especially in our sport, how often you get traded around. So it's pretty easy for people to kind of jump into a new team and get to know people there.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned, I like how the league is this whole like tournament styled. Like you take everybody to one city, expose the entire game and all the players to that city for an entire weekend, this, that, and the other. But we just saw the brand new team come in with the Water Dogs. I would imagine there's probably still talks of more expansion. You think if this league keeps expanding and growing teams that it might eventually have to become city-based, or you can keep up with that kind of tournament-style model?
Yeah, I think that's probably the goal. Like we can't have like a 30-team league.
Just traveling circus around, just like 40 teams in the goddamn thing.
That would be counterproductive to trying to fix the like lax pro stigma, because you'd have 300 dudes running through Fed Hill like on the weekend. So it's like, dude, we gotta like spread this out. But it's definitely gonna hopefully be in cities. And that was another cool thing to kind of understand how team names and fan bases formed, like without that, because it's very easy to think of like the Washington Capitals or like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the New England Patriots, like names that have to do with like the location. And it made you think, well, think on a bigger picture, Premier League soccer, huge U.S. fan base. I don't think that many people here have been to Manchester or a lot of those. But they have their favorite teams just based on team colors, team name, their favorite players, and like their backstory. So the PLL did that. And then on top of that, you have UFC, you have NASCAR. Like these guys aren't tied to locations, but we all have our favorite fighters. People have their favorite. And at World Surf League, same thing. And it's like what makes you a fan is kind of knowing people's backstory and them putting themselves out there. So they give us all these resources to like produce content on our own to kind of build fan base on social media. And they just like really promote each player. So they're trying to like, this is what this guy's about, like him or hate him.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because I've seen that from the beginning, where Paul was really focused on like the best way to grow the game is through content and social media. So do whatever you can, go on podcasts, do videos, start social media, do this, that, and the other, which I think is probably one of the coolest things that you guys do.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had a quote where he said baseball blew up on radio, NFL blew up on TV, and it's like we're the new age sport. I guess we are the oldest sport in continental U.S.
Digital media, baby.
Digital media is going to be our big vehicle for mainstream media.
Sure. KP?
Sport of the future, man.
Yeah, fastest game on 2 feet.
Right. So I kind of want to jump in after your first season there with the Chrome. You get the Water Dogs. You had the expansion draft. You kind of got, I don't know, you didn't get any looks there. Did they call you? Did they reach out during that experience or that time?
No. So the season ended, and I was pissed at the way that went down. My personal performance, our team performance. Pretty much throughout the whole season, I thought, all right, next game I'm going to start playing a lot. I'm going to play well. We're going to start winning. All right, next game. Halfway through the season, all right, I was like, all right, we're going to completely turn around this next half. Next game, I'm like, all right, we could win 2 here and still make the playoffs. I'm like, all right, if this team loses and we win by this many, we'd still be in. And then we're officially out. I'm like, damn. Just like that, it was over. Super hopeful the whole time, but like didn't work out. And then I was like, wait, now I'm just mad. Like I didn't get that much of an opportunity. Like I did a lot of preparation. We'll see how this plays. Like I think I'm valuable to the team here, especially youth wise. Some of our players, a lot of our players are like older, so they're not going to play forever. And so I was like, there's some value there. We get a new coach, and I'm left off the protected roster. So I was like, all right, well, I guess there is no value there. And then so the Water Dogs came around. I'm like, all right, maybe they'll take me for sure. Then Andy Copa didn't pick me up either. So I was like, all right, all right, that's fine. I guess I'm not going to play here anyway. I was like, you know what? I don't know. I don't know what value you see in me here. Maybe not. And then I think I had heard at that point that they were kind of looking to trade me. Someone mentioned that to me. I forget who. And I was like, wow, all right. And then I get a call from one of the guys on the board who is Seth Tierney. Calls me and is like, hey, Romar, just want to ask what you thought about the trade. And I was like, what trade? He's like, I thought, yeah, your coach would have called you by now, but you got traded to the Atlas. And I was like, what? I was like, dude, that's all right. That makes sense. I was like, that's great. Like, you like it? He's like, are you happy with that? Like, is that cool with the trade? Because I guess those guys have the power to like veto a trade if I were to be like, I refuse to play for these Atlas guys or something like that. And I was like, yeah, no, that's great. Next thing you know, Coach Rubio calls me. He's like, we're super excited to have you on the Atlas. Then the Chrome coach calls me and he's like, hey, you've been traded. Good luck. super short. And I was like, all right. And that was that. That's how that kind of trade played out.
Love it. It's like, yeah, Paul plays on that team. He runs the league. We get the nicer buses. Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, and I had just done Paul's podcast the week before, and on there he was like,
right.
Like, what are you thinking team-wise? I was like, I don't know. He's like, have you ever thought of taking destiny into your own hands? Like maybe asking some coaches? And I was like, no, I haven't thought of that. He's like, just putting that out there. Next thing you know, I'm on the Atlas. And I was like,
I see what you did there. Love it. So kind of want to switch gears a bit here. What makes, I think, hockey and lacrosse very similar, especially in today's age, and what they've always been, is that they're predominantly white sports. And if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're seeing the social media post, Romar, African-American kid, one of kind of few, I mean, there's starting to be more in the NHL, there's starting to be more in lacrosse, but what is the PLL and just lacrosse in general doing as a whole to kind of grow its diversity, grow its inclusion? Because I know you're very vocal on social media about it, and especially in today's mess of a political climate and whatnot. So what all are you doing? Because I know you've done some stuff with like the Compton Lacrosse Club. What all are you guys doing to kind of help with that?
I mean, just the start of that, we kind of have like the NFL as a players coalition, the MLB has a players alliance, hockey has a hockey diversity alliance, MLS has I think Black Players for Change. And we're like, well, why don't we form one of those? We put one of those together, and we're like, the difference in lacrosse is that all of us are like normal dudes. Like we went to school with our friends. Like a lot of us have jobs. Like we weren't like, all right, they didn't know straight from high school that you were going to be a millionaire, right? Like you're going to be on sneaker. It's like we're very normal dudes, and all of us have degrees from 4-year colleges, and some of us are like Harvard, Hopkins, Duke. So I was like, I think we're a pretty educated group. So I was like, why don't we just start kind of voicing what our experiences is to this demographic, which is like suburban and white. And so we're just like, I mean, listen, it's like, obviously there's some shortcomings from being 1 out of 45 people who is not white on a team. So we started sharing our experiences there. And I think it's been really valuable for a lot of the lacrosse community coming from us, or even people of all races, but people who just aren't white, and what it's like to be like that in a locker room. And I've had tons of good experiences, barely any bad ones. And, yeah, it's been cool. I think being what I am, being like Black Latino, has just made me super educated and well-versed on the topic, because I just had questions from an early age. And like, both my parents look different from each other. Like they speak a different language. We live in Southern Maryland, not a lot of Latinos in Southern Maryland. And it's just, I just was ready for all this talk, basically, because I've just been kind of
preparing for it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure you've had situations where, something may have happened to you, even starting at Calvert Lacrosse Club against another team. Because like you said, Southern Maryland, where it's kind of like, it's all a lot of white kids playing lacrosse. And that's how it is with, hockey too. And then even growing up, maybe you've had some experiences through college. Hopefully not, because you would think college kids would know better. But I mean, how have you kind of taken all those experiences? I mean, you kind of just mentioned it, but to like, how do you go and instill it in the kids now when you are working with like the Compton Lacrosse Club or some type of organization like that?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest message, like I got asked this the other day when I talked to a school, is that they're like, well, what do we do? What do we do now? And I was like, your first course of action before you think of signing any petition or reading any book should be, when you hear racism, just stop it in its tracks. Because I'm like, there's plenty of times in high school and younger where I heard a slur or something. And obviously I was offended, but a ton of people heard it and no one said anything. So it's like, as kids now in this sport, what you need to do is stop it in its tracks. Call the kid out. Be like, you're not friends with us if you're going to keep talking like that. Like, that's racist. And it's like, stop it in its tracks, whether it offends you or not. Stick up for people. And that goes for everything, whether it's gender, race, class, social class, money. And it's like, that makes it more welcoming to people, because it really sucks when you go and you pick someone from outside of the community to come and play hockey or lacrosse, and the kid was like, man, I just did not feel comfortable there, and I have to stop playing. It's like, man, this kid could have been great player and great friend, and like now he's going to miss out on all the good stuff that this sport has done for us. And so that's like my big message there. And then with Compton Lacrosse, which is just a leg of Harlem Lacrosse, which is they go to inner cities and they go to these at-risk kids who are at risk of kind of failing out or worse, and they teach them how to play lacrosse, and they do that through tutors after school, and then some club travel lacrosse. And what that does is the sports, they just provide so much in terms of leadership and friends and making sacrifices, how to prioritize stuff and figure out how to be a student athlete, and all that works well. And then specifically lacrosse is just, since college lacrosse is the show, you have to get to college. To get to college, you have to take care of your grades in high school. So it's like forcing these kids to get better grades and do well in school and stay out of trouble so that they can go play in the show, can go play college. And it might be that to them, but through all that, they get a degree, they get a better job. And it's like, I was like, that's perfect. I mean, it's kind of what lacrosse did for me. So I love having a similar message and getting to share that with the kids and kind of being an example of what this sport can do for you.
Yeah, and I think making it as accessible as possible is a big thing too, because, you know, you can think of people. I mean, any kid can go to a basketball court and shoot some hoops or go get a football. And whereas, well, hockey especially, like a kid can't just go to the rink and buy like $400 pair of skates and a shit ton of sticks and that type of stuff. But like lacrosse, even while it may not be as expensive, you still got to get the helmet, you got to get the pads, the gloves. It's a lot more that goes into it. So it's a lot of helping, I guess, these communities, and like you said, going into the at-risk type of stuff, and like providing equipment and this type of the other training sessions, anything. Because once they're not going to think to go out and get a lacrosse stick, but it's once you put a lacrosse stick in somebody's hand, they're like, oh shit, this is fun. Yeah. I can just zip this ball around right now and have a little fun with it. I might keep going.
Yeah, and hockey and lacrosse are both expensive. And what it is though is, when it's like a lot of people who do play lacrosse and hockey aren't breaking the bank to do that. So like if we have a stick, we have a ton of sticks. Like, do we need all these sticks? So like, just give it the hand-me-downs. I mean, I started playing on hand-me-downs from my brother and him trading with people at like hotbeds camp and stuff and getting some sticks. And so it's like, why don't we share not only the sticks, the cleats, the helmets, but like, and then, hey, what I learned at this prep school, I can give to these kids for free, because they're not going to all go to this prep school. So it's like sharing the resources is what this is built on here. And then lacrosse's network is just unreal. Like, some of the people who are in higher places with a ton of money played lacrosse and they want to give back and they believe in the mission. So it's like those leagues are connecting those kids with those kind of people, and it's awesome, man, all through the sport.
Love it. Yeah, I love it. Love to see what you're doing with it on social media and everything too. So KP, any last questions for him?
Yeah, just touching on that. Lacrosse in a whole is kind of changing the stigma of lacrosse from going from like the trust fund kid to being more for everybody. And that's awesome. I love seeing that.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think the median household income for lacrosse is $100,000, which is significantly higher than I think the median high school income of like an average American. So like in a lot of places, the stigma does make sense. And I just wanted to go about and say, like, yeah, those kids play, but like, that's not every single kid for sure. Like, that definitely doesn't describe myself and a ton of my friends I met at Loyola and at Ryken and in the pros. So it's like, you don't have to be that to play this. And if anything, like, those kids in that demographic need to meet kids who aren't like that. Because like, we're all in a bubble of some sort socially, and the more diversity, I think, is the better, for sure.
For sure. Love it. Well, Romar, we appreciate you coming on, man. We could talk to you for hours, buddy. We love seeing what you're doing. Hopefully PLL can get back to a more can actually travel next year, get out of a bubble so you can hit DC again and we can pop up and see a game and everything.
For sure. And when that happens, hit me up. I got tickets for you.
Oh, hell yeah. And then, like I said, up your game a little bit so we can get these higher quality shirts. Just don't get traded so we don't have to keep buying them from different teams. We're going to have like fucking 6 Romar shirts if you keep getting tossed around.
It's like, all right, play good, but not good enough to get traded to another team.